Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back. I feel like I should have an intro now because apparently I'm full-time teacher, also part-time YouTuber with these videos. Although I'll let you know that my YouTube skills have not improved in the past week. These are really just for updates, and then I don't want to post to YouTube ever again. So let's get into a couple housekeeping things and then we'll get into the expectations for the week. People are continuing to ask for updates via video because they feel like hearing expectations on video is easier, and that's fantastic. We'll keep going with that, but again, I'm not a YouTuber, so go easy. Actually, hit that like button and subscribe, and yeah, let's have this community really grow. That's a joke, you don't have to do that. Happy belated birthday to Julian. I don't know if you saw in the post, but I tried to include it in writing and I want to say it here. Happy birthday. I heard your birthday was on the 4th, and I'm sorry we weren't together as a class to embarrass you and to sing happy birthday. So I hope you spent that day celebrating yourself and having a good one. Just some feedback from last week to start off. There was a question, actually quite a few questions, about whether we'd be using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something like that to be able to chat as a class or share our work. I have spoken to admin about that, and we're going back and forth about the safest way to do that, both for you guys and for me. There's a lot of concerns about people's video being on and microphones and other people from outside being able to access private conversations. So not yet, but we're talking about it, so that's on my radar. Don't worry about that. I'm now including each week a suggested breakdown to pace for the week. A lot of the feedback was, how do I know what to do? How do I know what order to do it in? So your suggested breakdown has the breakdown for schoolwork, what I would do each day to spread it out so that it's manageable and I can get to everything in a timely fashion. And then the workouts, how I would spread out the workouts along the week. Obviously you can swap them around depending on what day, what you feel like doing. But that is now a resource that you can use is the weekly breakdown. Your expectations for this week are to fill out the Google form, to participate in the D2L discussion, to include your workouts on the Padlet, and then to do your daily gratitude journal. And your fitness challenge is also in there, but on the Padlet as well. So expectation number 1 is to do your Google form. This is the first thing that you're going to do every week that we're working online, and it's important for me because I can check in to see if you have any questions. I can get feedback from you guys on how the work went from the previous week, and it's the first thing that I will look before I call home if I have any concerns. I will look to see if you had any questions that I didn't address, and that might be why something wasn't handed in, or if you had questions from the previous week, I will email you separately about that. I responded to all of the concerns from last week that people wrote in separate emails. So if you're looking for the answer to the question that you asked, I sent it to your Wellington email. So you got to log on there and you got to check. It's really important to still be checking your emails. Expectation number 2 this week is to respond to 2 discussion threads instead of the 3 that you had last week. So it should say week 2, and then the first discussion asks for an online resource that you've seen people working out. So you're going to say what platform you've seen the content on, how would you describe the workout that you did and that you saw them do, and then why you think it's a good workout. The second discussion you're going to respond to is responding after reading an article called Go Home and Stay Home. You're going to answer 2 questions that I have about that. Both what the doctor's reasoning is to telling people not to play certain team sports and to social distance, and then the second is whether or not you agree with her stance and your example as to why you think that. Your discussion is absolutely part of your class participation and your grade. So those of you that didn't get around to posting in the discussion last week, or those of you that had a nice 1-sentence reply, I would say that's not meeting expectations, especially because it was clearly laid out that it should be 2 to 3 sentences. So It's important to follow the instructions of what you're asked to do in the discussion, manage your thread, and then to use your netiquette, like we talked about last week. If you have questions about netiquette, see our video from last week. Just some feedback on the discussion posts. Overwhelmingly, I am so pleased with some of the posts that I was seeing. Specifically, a good example of this was in question 1, Dylan responded to the question and said that he's more organized right now and he's excited to improve his knowledge. And then John, Josh, and Max all jumped on there, had very positive and encouraging responses. What I'd like you guys to do is to reply to each person if you're agreeing with them. So Dylan has his initial post that he did, and let's say John comes on first and he replies and says like, I agree and I also think this. Then Josh might reply to John. So at the bottom of John's comment, it will say reply, click that, Josh, and then you can continue the thought, and it flows more like a conversation as opposed to separate thoughts going through. If somebody has a new thought and isn't agreeing with what John said, so if Max comes on and doesn't agree with John and Josh what they said, he might start a new thread in that same discussion that Dylan was leading. Also, a really positive discussion was John's thread, and he talked about how he's happy that he doesn't have to wake up early, and then obviously we had Floyd respond on that because I know that he doesn't like to wake up early, and then Yark and Max had really positive replies to that as well. And if they had any questions in their post, John should be jumping in to reply to say like, yep, this is the answer to your question that you asked me about my original post. So it's his job to manage that feed that he had first posted. If you guys want an exemplar post of just a very well thought out multi-dimensional post, go to question 2. Madison wrote a post talking about how social media shows people that are still not following recommendations by the WHO and by our government, the effect this has had on her and her family, and how she feels about the pandemic as a whole. And big props to Madison because she separated each of them into paragraphs, so it's really easy to read. So check that post out if you want to see somebody that's going above and beyond expectations. Great job, Madison. And then just a few points on question 3. Yark, thanks for being Positivity Station. You're giving great advice to your classmates, and good on you for reminding them to social distance, them and myself. That's fantastic. Josh Holman, getting people up off the couch. I appreciate that. I like that you can say it and that I don't have to. And then Trinity, riding your horse. What a fantastic way to get out of the house and really take advantage of the resources that you have available. And discussions from past weeks will stay up. So if you want to see any of the responses that people gave or that I'm talking about, feel free to go into those discussions, and you should still be able to see them after the submission date has closed. You should be able to look back on. The third expectation for the week is to continue to write in your activity journals. You guys have done a great job of this. I just want to remind you that this is your physical activity journal, not a daily bullet journal. So I appreciate you sharing all the inner workings of your entire day, but I don't need to know what you're having for breakfast, and I don't need to know what other work you're doing in other courses. I just need to know your physical activity for the day. When interacting with your journal, I'm fine if you fill out your what for the whole week so that it's planned out what you're going to do each day, but you shouldn't be responding to the so what and the now what ahead of time. So those of you that were filling out all of Wednesday and Thursday on the Tuesday and saying like, I felt great after this workout on Thursday, but it's a Tuesday, that's a very obvious way to show me that you aren't doing the workouts that you say you are and that you are lying about your workouts. So be aware of that and don't do it. The final expectation is to post to your Padlet. There will be a screencastify on how to do that below, and it will explain what I'm expecting you to post for each week. And that brings us to the end of this week's video. This still very much is a transition period of getting used to online learning. So please reach out if you have any questions. You guys know my email, but again, it's claire.endicott@wellingtoncdsb.ca. Really anything, any question, I'm happy to help, or any concern you might have. I'll try to work with you and we'll find a solution that works for both of us. And I think that just about covers everything. If you've made it to this point in the video, you get a very special surprise. I will tell you who my celebrity inspiration was for the outfit that I chose today. This might help give you a hint as you're thinking right now who my inspiration was. No, it's not Steve Jobs, although I also look like Steve Jobs right now. This will help you kind of bring it together. I'm also wearing jeans, which is a very important hint, okay? Yeah, so I look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson today. Yeah, that was the goal. Have a fantastic week. I hope that either made you cringe or laugh, and we'll talk next week. I should have added that my family decided that Easter weekend is the best time to put in new flooring, so those fun noises in the background are, construction in our house, of which we are all doing ourselves, and we're staying with the people that we're quarantined with, but any of those noises during the video that's a nail gun. Yeah, so sorry about that. The goal...